Hi guys,
Hello.
happy Sunday. Hope everyone had a wonderful weekend and a last night of Hanukkah. And now we're getting ready for Christmas.
Yay!
As always, if you're jumping on, please say hi and where you guys are coming in from and give some likes and some loves. And we would love to hear who's jumping on. And hi, Jen, Laurie, good to see you. Hey, Jim. Hi, Melissa. So, what we're going to talk about three things tonight. And we were listening to Grant Cardone's 10X Rule book, but also we were watching an amazing impact theory. And we took away a lot of things, but we like to keep things in threes. So what we took away was three big things that we want to talk about. Number one, the fact that vulnerability is amazing. Hi, Kim. Good to see you and Greg on here. And we're also going to talk about being spoiled, and we're going to explain what that means. And our emotions and what those things do to play into our life and our relationships. So if you know of anyone that could benefit from this content, obviously we are not relationship experts. We love to share our journey of what we're learning together as a couple with all of you. So tag anybody you want in these videos, share these videos with your timeline so people can relate to it. So as always, we're going to start with our first topic, which is the importance of being vulnerable and honest. And don't over prepare in life. So why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, so tonight's stuff that we're talking about, like Scott said, we watched I watched an impact theory, and I believe the guy's name is Kevin Cleese.
Yeah, he was a comedian.
Yeah, he used to be a comedian, and the first point that he brought up, which is, here, I'll show it to you again. I love this. So be vulnerable and honest, don't over prepare. Let's use this, for example, on a date. Okay, so how many people have been on dates where they kind of try to pretend to be someone they're not, especially nowadays, right? So many people are dating online, and there's just so many dates happening, and it's
overthinking.
Yeah. So anyway, when we talk about being vulnerable and being honest, right? Like with all these dates and things happening, why wouldn't you want to kind of be yourself and be kind of vulnerable and be honest? And, for example, if you go to a date and, you're feeling a little uncomfortable and you're feeling like, man, I don't know what to say. I'm so uncomfortable. Why not just say it? Just say,
Yeah.
You know what? I'm a little nervous right now. I'm super excited to be here. You seem amazing. But yeah, I'm going to be honest. I'm a little nervous, and kind of open the playing field a little bit. And he just talked about like opening yourself and being vulnerable, because one of two things are going to happen, right? You're going to be human beings, and you're going to go back and forth and go, you know what? I'm nervous too. So it kind of opens that door, and you can kind of start talking about it. Or the second thing happens is maybe that person's not a nice person, or they might not be the right one for you, and you might get some red flags, which is a blessing, right? Because you're not going to waste your time. So, maybe next time you have a big date scheduled, or maybe you have something coming up, don't overthink things, don't over plan, just go and have a good time. And I've actually given this advice to a friend before. He actually made a comment, and he was like, well, man, I don't even want to waste my time. I don't want to go on the date. Why do I want to spend, my weekend or my Saturday going on this date? And I said, you know what? Why don't you go on the date? And even if it's bad, right? If you know from like, from the first like few minutes that it's going to be bad, make it the best date you can possibly make it, and see if you can challenge yourself to make it an engaging conversation. Try to challenge yourself to make it as good as it can be, because what is it going to do? It's at least going to, you're going to walk away and you're not going to actually be like, you know what, this was practice. Practice for maybe someone who, might be a good fit in the aspect of, let me have conversation and let me be more natural and be myself. So use it as, kind of an exercise if you need to. But It's kind of
Well, two things. Number one, I was an over preparer when I was dating, and I always overcompensated. And I was in my therapist's office this one time, and she said, that, she goes, the way that you need to approach dating is knowing that you showing up on a date and being who you are is enough. And that's not to say that, you bring flowers. I mean, I brought Nancy a book on our first date, which was a little bit different. And what my therapist was trying to get across is that, you're enough just the way that you are. The person that's going to want to be with you is going to appreciate exactly who you are. So by showing your own personal vulnerability, by being honest and open from day one, not only sets the tone for your dating experience, but this goes out to all those people that are married. When you're with someone for years and years and years, some people hear that like, oh my God, I can't imagine being married to someone for that long. Well, that's kind of a red flag right there if you can't imagine being with that person for the rest of your life. But number two, I got to give credit to my good friends Mike and Joanna Cavalcanti, who use the hashtag date your spouse. And they're very, very big on making sure that they have a date night at least once a week. And being vulnerable and being honest throughout the entire timeline of your relationship, even when you're in it, when you have kids, it's not an excuse to stop dating your spouse. You should always go on dates. You should always feel connected. And perfect example, we've been together for, almost 13 months. We went out with good friends of ours, Jamie and Adam France last night. And, they've been together for about 4 or 5 years total. And we brought these little conversation cards because, we actually bring them everywhere we go. It's not that we have nothing to talk about, but as our relationship progresses, the answers that we give to these sometimes do change, but it also spurs other conversation. So we ended up having an 8 o'clock dinner reservation, and we didn't leave the restaurant till about 11:45. And we actually were done dinner for like an hour and a half, and we just sat there and we were just going through the conversation cards and just enjoying yourself. So get these conversation cards. If you find that you're going out to dinner and you're just like kind of on your phone and you guys aren't talking much, it's not that there's nothing to talk about. It's just you have to move forward with the relationship. It's going to change as you progress in the relationship, right?
Yeah.
So be vulnerable, be honest, and don't over prepare.
Yep. And I was going to say, if anyone wants to order those, I think they're called like Table Topics on Amazon. But they make a couple different versions, and I just love them because like it's so much more fun kind of whenever you go out to really focus on each other, and those conversation cards really help pull fun things out of you. And they do make, I think, a relationship version, a family version, and a friends version.
Yeah, and the people that are on here right now, what are some, like, just type in the chat box as we go, what are some fun things that you do on dates with your spouse? Because conversation cards is something that we like. Kimmy, Donna, Jody, Lisa, Richie, Cindy, Amrit just like this. Aaron, you guys, I'm sure you guys all go on dates. What are some fun things you do for dates? Let's give each other ideas. We were dropping some stuff off and picking some stuff up from Nancy's house, and one of the housemates that lives there, his girlfriend just moved here from Australia, and they were asking, what can we do in the area for Christmas time? And we did like 7 things last year. We went and did all these fun things, so we gave them a bunch of ideas. So we all have ideas to pull from. So in the comment section below, share some things. I think Love Language has a book we've used. It's called The 5 Love Languages. Great book, Kimmy. Great book. So number 2 is being spoiled. So we get spoiled without even realizing it. So Nancy, why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, I think, I'm going to give a couple different examples because, for those of you who know a little bit about me, I'm a really big advocate of, life is short, right? tomorrow is not promised, and people who we love and care about. So anyway, people who we love and care about, might not be here tomorrow. Things happen. Over the weekend, several things happened, kind of like some things not normal, right? Some health things, came up with the family, and it just gets me thinking, right? Like every single day is not promised. People, aren't always going to be here. Your relationship with your spouse or your significant other or even friends, okay, and your family, tomorrow's not promised. And we get so spoiled without even realizing it that we're waking up next to someone, or we have, children, or we don't have children, but we have wonderful friends, or, we might have animals, it's just those relationships. Nothing is promised, and we sometimes get spoiled and we don't realize how grateful, we should be, and how much we really should tell people that we love them, because, sometimes that person's not going to be there, the next day, and terrible things happen. So I just think it's so incredibly important to really realize that there's so much in your life right now, no matter how bad and how crummy and how awful, and even if you just lost someone, there's so much greatness and love and wonderfulness around us. And even if your relationship is kind of crappy, there's something like a little whatever, there still is so much to be grateful for.
When we heard this about, human beings, like we're spoiled without even realizing it, I had to take a step back and think about that. We were taking the dogs for a walk and out in the cold, and she said, we're so spoiled in the sense that, we take full advantage that after we take the dogs for a walk, we get to go back inside into a heated condo. And Nancy was like, there's people that can't even afford to pay their heating bill, and they don't have heat right now. And it's all of those things that, and why we say gratitude is the best attitude is because we truly should be grateful for all the little things in life, because those are the ones that are most important. Our health. And every morning we drive to the gym, she'll either say to me or I will say to her, what are 3 things that you're grateful for? And they're usually the same thing. We're grateful for each other, we're grateful for our health, and we're grateful for the endless opportunities that life presents us. And it's the truth. But if you don't know what to be grateful for, be grateful that you have children. Be grateful that you have a loving partner. Be grateful that you have a roof over your head or clothes. There's people that can't afford clothing. There's people that can't afford shoes. There's people that can't afford a full refrigerator of food. All of those little things, when you're grateful for them, all the money in the world doesn't matter. That comes. But if all that money was taken away, if there was no currency, just imagine this for a second. If currency did not exist, because people sometimes put the weight of success on the size of their house, on the size of their bank account, all of those things, if all of those things just went away, and at the foundational level of gratitude is all of the simplistic things that we all have, our health, our love, our families. So when we can realize that if we start to take those things for granted, and when those things are taken away from us, you truly realize how spoiled we all do become naturally, because it's there, it's expected. And that brings us to our last point, is that emotions are temporary, and emotions are preset expectations. When you have your heart broken, it's because you had an expectation from that relationship. That's where you come in.
No. So let me read that. Omri, one of my closest friends went missing on Wednesday, so we have been doing some serious reflections on what we are grateful for or taken for granted, spoiled. Although not a date, not night idea. One thing we did. I agree with.
Oh, she's going to continue. Omri, we're thinking of you and your friend's family, but again, you don't know what's going to happen day to day. And that's, I mean, it's just.
No, and that's the thing. I mean, so often we get, and this is just going back to we get spoiled without even realizing it, right? We get so stuck in our day to day, and sometimes right, it's like being in the weeds, and we don't take time to really step back and look up and look around at the people that we have around us, And it's kind of funny because I was telling Scott today, I was like, you know what? We have the ability, we don't have to follow this cookie cutter, way of doing things. And we don't have to color inside the lines. If you want to create a family tradition, or you want to create something to get people together, or you want to, have a better relationship with the people, you can go out and do it, and you can make that happen, and I just think it's so important. And, I had posted earlier, tonight, it made me really think, but someone had lost a friend that was really dear to them. And every time that happens, God, losing someone can feel like a train just hit you in your chest, and it's it can take the ever living everything out of you. And it's when stuff like that happens, why does it take things like that to happen to go, you know what, I need to really reach out to people, that I care about and I love, because, then I realize that, something could happen. So anyway, just think about it each day, just, the people that are around you, your family, everything, just, it's so incredibly important.
Yeah. And Amrit said just a simple thing to do with the family is make ornaments, or making Christmas cookies, some sort of, any family tradition that you want, you can have. And it's just, life is so short. It should not be taken advantage of. And again, we just want everyone to go back and reflect at some point today before bed, and either write it down or say it out loud to your partner or even to yourself. 3 things that you're grateful for that day. When you can start instilling that daily habit, it really starts to shift you on the inside. It really starts to make you realize that there is a much bigger purpose to life than everything that you see on TV and all of the reality trash that's out there and all the negative news. There's much more to life. We have the innate ability as human beings every single day to focus on whatever we want to focus on. I'm coming up on my 5-year anniversary of canceling my cable for 4 or 5 years, and I don't miss it at all. Zero. There's so much abundant things to do each day. I know that would just take me away from certain things.
Very true. So, sorry, back to this topic. So emotions are temporary. So the example that the gentleman gave in the impact theory was, how many times are there relationships, right? You're with someone, and maybe on, I'll break it down by weekday, right? So maybe on Monday you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so in love and everything's so perfect. And then maybe by Tuesday or Wednesday, you're kind of like, nah, is this really the person I want to be with, forever, always, do I want to, continue to whatever? But we're kind of like this, right? We're always kind of going through these things. And right, obviously the longer you're with someone and you're, kind of feeling like, oh my gosh, is this forever? Is this the person that I'm going to have to, emotions are temporary. When you do feel like that, stop for a second. Okay, is this the person that I want to be with? Is this person, are we growing together? Are we able to communicate? Or do we have a healthy relationship? Just remember, when you start to feel those feelings, is it something that's like a permanent feeling, or is it like a little blip in your emotions? Because, we are humans. We are emotional creatures, right? And I'm and Scott knows I'm a huge advocate. When you feel emotions and you start to get all emotional, digest it first. Well, digest it first and then let it out, right? You don't need to react to everything. Sometimes you need to kind of rationalize stuff a little bit.
Go through the filter.
Process it, okay? And then let it out. And I always, I told Scott, I try to go through the filter, before I open my mouth. Because sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I get so fired up, is what I'm about to say necessary? Is it truthful? And is it kind? okay, is what I'm about to say. So I try to process it through filters. Trust me, I have come a long way. I think emotional maturity is something that, can be worked on, it can be learned. It takes practice. There have been so many situations I look back on in my life and how I handled things and how I was so, like, I'm not happy because this, and oh, I'm not, whatever. And it's like, come on, it's temporary. It's like, there's some things, and I think about Scott and I's relationship, like, we are so good together because we have such great communication. So it's like, if anything even comes up, it's like, hey, question about this, or
let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that. And it's like, we just address it and, we go forward. Now, I know not every single relationship is like that.
But it could be.
It could be. Obviously, work on communication, everything, but always remember, once you start to get emotional, I always say, and I heard it on, I don't know, it was a podcast a long time ago, but it was like, somebody once said, when your emotions are up, your intelligence usually goes down. So try to kind of meet yourself in the middle. And before you react or you say something you don't mean, like, how many times have you guys had a conversation or an argument and you say something just to dig or just to
get a reaction,
get a reaction out of someone, or just to cause whatever, and you don't really mean it, but you say it, and you're trying to get a reaction. So try to, remember, emotions are temporary, kind of calm down, and then try to process things and then go from there. But yeah.
I'm a big believer that emotions are choices. We choose to feel the way that we want to. And especially what I've learned in being a man who is now, in my opinion, I'm the most emotionally mature I've ever been, and I'm constantly working on that. When men have the blow-ups that we do, when we freak out or flip out on something, all that is that there's been things building up inside of me as a guy that innately I'm afraid to actually talk about, because women are the ones that are supposed to be open and talking and communicating. And as men, we're supposed to be the strong ones, where we kind of internalize everything and we just kind of let things be, where, again, all of those emotions start to build up and build up and build up. And then something happens and it just triggers. And the same thing happens for women. There are some women who, instead of, they feel like they don't want to rock the boat and they don't want to cause any controversy with the relationship. They don't want to stir the pot. So they internalize those emotions, and then something happens and you freak out. It goes both ways. And I think both of us, we've done both of that, not with each other, but in past relationships. I definitely overreacted emotionally because of me, with pent up feelings for a certain amount of time. It's only natural, but the practice of communication can be brought into any relationship from day one. So the one thing that we've been so good at from day one of us being together, and we remind each other, is there anything that you want to talk about? Is there anything that's on your mind? We will always ask each other if there's something that, and she'll I can tell if there's something she's holding in. I'm like, just get it out. Let's talk about it. And same thing with me. She can tell if there's something going on internally inside of here where I need to get it out. But just remember, emotions are temporary. We give meanings to emotions. So you have to remember, am I reacting emotionally or am I reacting logically? Emotion and logic are two different things. When you react logically, you're thinking with a clear head. When you react emotionally, as Nancy said, you're reacting with a very, very low intelligence level. So if you can just take a second, take a deep breath, realize that you're feeling a certain way, acknowledge that feeling, and then instead of reacting with the immediate emotional feeling, don't suppress it, acknowledge it, and then respond logically and run it through the filter. Am I going to say something to this person? And think about what you're about to say. If I'm like, you're such a bitch, you don't give a shit about me, and you say all these things, is that truthful? Is it kind? And is it necessary? And probably not, because it's an emotional trigger. It's an emotional reaction. And you got to remember, the one thing that the gentleman was stating is that, most people get their hearts broken because they have expected emotional outcomes from a relationship. And he said emotions are temporary. And he said, when a relationship ends, most people go down into this rabbit hole of feeling so sorry for themselves that this one person broke up with me, where you should actually be excited because that just opened up a pipeline of 3.2 billion people that you could potentially be with. And when he said that, it was such a different mindset to think about. But again, emotions are temporary, and they're choices as well. So and I'm not saying like if someone breaks up to you, you get right back on the horse.
Go ahead.
No, you want to say something?
No, I was going to say
thought.
the breakup thing. I thought was a cool conversation because he said, if someone breaks up with you, it's not like a bad thing entirely, right? They're actually like breaking up with the expectations, or they're like breaking the expectations. So meaning like every time somebody breaks up with you, use it as like a good thing in a way, to kind of reflect on yourself and to like learn from it. And, that time should be spent on self-reflecting.
Yeah. So just remember, the more that you can obviously look within yourself, and the more that you can honor who you are, who you're becoming, and the life that you want to live. And you have to bring that to everything that you do. You have to bring that to your life. Is this boring you?
No.
Oh, you just yawned. You okay? And you can bring it to any and all aspect of your life. So, in review, number one, be vulnerable and honest. Don't over prepare for things in your life, and really date your spouse. Treat it just like you met them. It really goes a long way. Number two, realize that we get spoiled without even realizing it with life. So really take the time to feel grateful and appreciative and thankful for every small, little, minute thing that you may not pay attention to, and realize how big it actually is. And realize that emotions are temporary. They're choices, they're temporary. Remember, if something comes up, am I reacting emotionally or am I reacting logically? Anything to finish and close out with?
No. I just think, everything that we kind of touched on, it's just, whether you're in a relationship or not, let's be thankful and grateful, because no matter what point you're at, whether you're just dating, right?
Or if you're single, you have your family, you have your friends.
Yeah. And then whether you're, with someone and you've got family and friends and you have that person, being thankful. And there's just, God, every stage of it, there's something to be thankful for. And it's all kind of perspective. And, I've been spending a lot of time lately just learning more about perspective, and, how you look at things differently can totally change your reality. Like no matter what situation you're in, I'm probably repeating myself again. Sorry. I'm a little tired. Long weekend. But it's just no matter what situation, you're in, whether your heart is broken or whatever, look at it from the angle of everything in life and everything that's kind of being presented to you is for you, right? It's something that's going to help you develop and become a better version of yourself. Even the challenges that you face, even the shitty ass days that you're having, right? Maybe the thing that keeps happening and you're like, why does this keep happening to me? Something's trying to tell you something, and there's always a lesson in everything. So again, be thankful for the relationship that you do or don't have, and be vulnerable and honest and communicate and all that good stuff.
Yeah, and if there's ever a topic that you guys do want us to speak on, whether it's life or relationship-wise, inbox either of us. We would love to do some content on it. So for those that are jumping on live or on the replay, thank you as always for spending a half hour of your Sunday evening with us. Enjoy the rest of your evenings, and we'll see you next week. Bye everybody.